Sorry, I talked to myself too. um, Good evening, everyone. My name is Morgan Pellerin. I'm the Assistant Director here at the Career Development Center, and just excited to have you all here this evening. We are joined today with Mr. Rob Hartman. He is a 2018 grad you graduated MIS with a concentration in cybersecurity. Is that right?
Yep,
Did you have
exactly.
any? Did you have any minors? I don't remember.
Accounting. I did
Okay.
accounting as a minor.
Okay.
Yep.
And Rob currently works for EY as a cybersecurity consultant. I think I got that right too.
Yep.
And he's here tonight to kind of just answer. I have a few questions I'm going to go through, but I'm going to also open it up for anyone who's on the Zoom chat. You'll have an opportunity to ask questions. You can do a couple things. You're welcome to chat in the questions, but I'm also when the time comes, if you want to ask a question, you're welcome to turn on your camera and ask directly. That may be better. But just so you can kind of get a sense of what this program is all about, this is called Cardinal Chats. You can see Bergie here in the background. But what the idea behind this is, one of the things in the Career Development Center we recommend for pretty much all students to do is to do something called an informational interview, which is basically what this is. What an informational interview allows is for you to really get some inside information about what it's like to work in a particular field. Learn kind of hear what it's like, the day-to-day stuff, to help on the one hand to kind of help you see, is this career path something I might be interested in, but also so you can kind of start developing your network of people who work in the field that you're interested in. And what I'm trying to do tonight is, one, connect you with someone in a field, but also to model what this is like as well. So, my hope is that, one, this will be helpful, but also you'll be more encouraged to do this on your own as well. We can coach you how to do them on your own. So with that, I'm going to jump right in and start asking Rob some questions. So Rob, if you wouldn't mind, just share a little bit about your current position and kind of what you do in that role.
Yeah, cool. So I am now a senior consultant with EY, specifically under cybersecurity. And then under cybersecurity, there's a couple of different subsections, and I work specifically under identity and access management. So for the past 2 years, I've been working on identity and access management transformation projects. So I first started right the summer after I graduated at EY, working on what we call IAM transformation project. I worked at an insurance company, and so the general day-to-day while I was at the insurance company was, because I joined at the tail end of the multi-year project, a lot of the implementation that we had done at the client was already done. And so what I got to work on was helping improve what they had already implemented. So when you break down IAM, it's essentially how you control how people get access to specific systems or applications. And so what we did was we built, we call it role-based access control. And you take somebody's access and you try and group it together, and you can basically say, okay, this person's a software engineer, this person's a financial analyst. Here's a bunch of access that the software engineer should have. Here's the access that the financial analyst should have. Let's group those together and then make it easy for someone to request so that they can make their lives a lot easier. That was my first project. Now for about 1.5 years, I have been working at Home Depot. So we actually, the project that we were doing at the insurance company, it was about 3 years in length, and they started from the ground up and implemented a brand new solution to do all of those access controls. in their environment. I actually, when we started at Home Depot, I was part of the team, which we're now about a year and a half in. We're building an entirely new solution for Home Depot and how they control all of their access across their entire enterprise. And so when you think about Home Depot, you have like their entire corporate environment, so all of their software engineers, all their financial analysts, that kind of day-to-day corporate people, but they also have every single store across North America. And so every single store has all of these store associates in it. And we are in charge of making sure that all those store associates have the proper access so that when you walk into a Home Depot store and you just need to like check out at a register or ask in the paint department for a specific item, they can access the computer, look up whatever they need to do, or help the customer. Because when you're dealing with like an insurance company, like the customer is like indirectly sort of helped by you helping with access. At Home Depot specifically, like if we don't get the access right for those store associates, like that's a pretty big deal. Like then they can't sell hammers and nails, and it's a direct bottom line like negative impact on the company. So we took it up in terms of like risk level, but generally what I work on at Home Depot, just to close it out, is helping build the solution. So I've been a data engineer, and along with all the stores and all the corporate, there's a lot of data that goes along with everything revolving around all the associates and all the access that they have. So I'm in charge of making sure that all the data is in all of the right places so that we can make all of the correct decisions to make sure that everyone gets the access that they need. That's generally over the past 2 years, high level, what I've been working on.
Cool. Well, thanks for sharing. I definitely think about going to Home Depot differently now. That's
Yeah.
for sure. It sounds definitely some complex projects there.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a wild place for sure.
Thinking about the work that you do, what would you say is the most rewarding aspect of that work?
So I would say there's two parts to it. Definitely seeing that like and it's more real at Home Depot, but seeing that like what we directly implement is actually used by people in like the corporate world or even in the stores. Like when you walk into a store and you see people like doing sales at the register and you know that, hey, they got their access or they're wearing their apron and they're using that computer and they're not having any issues, like that's directly related to like something that I implemented at Home Depot. So I would say that that's obviously the big one. But also like the people that you get to work with, that's probably the second one. It's like just the relationships and getting to know people, um, both inside and outside of work. And that's definitely a close second there.
Would that include like both the people that are on your team, but also like the company that you're
Yeah,
helping?
clients as well. Yeah, definitely like client relationships are a cool thing. And getting to see those grow because like not all clients are the same. But if you get like a cool client like Home Depot, they like I almost sometimes forget that like I work at EY now and I feel like I work at Home Depot just because of like the culture that they have and they're basically all inclusive like of everyone. And whether I'm a contractor or whether I'm like a corporate associate, we all sort of work together and do everything the same. So that's
Cool.
really cool part.
And I'm imagining it's also like your work, like you're with a client now, eventually you might be with a different one, so the work's always changing.
Exactly. Yeah. My day to day is like, it's very hard to explain sometimes, but day to day, it's like I'm generally working on something different or a different problem every day, which is,
Cool.
I enjoy a lot right now.
So on the flip side of rewarding, what would you say would be the challenging aspects of your job, the things that are maybe hard?
Yeah. So there's definitely with consulting, um, a lot, not a lot, but like there's some standout ones. Just as you can absolutely love working with a client, there are also people that you could absolutely dislike working with. Um, but they're the client. And so in the end, like sometimes you have to deal with leadership or someone that directly would tell you what to do or how to make a decision. Like it may not be the best decision at all times, but they're the ones that are going to make it. So I would say people can be great, obviously, but like all they can have like that can be a big dislike for sure.
Okay. Um, let's see. So kind of moving a little bit just what we call like field specific questions, but what would you say are the skills or traits that whether you've developed them or whatever the case is that have allowed you to be successful in the field? Like what would someone need to know to be successful in your job?
Yeah. So it probably breaks down really into like two categories for me. Um, Definitely like people skills and then technical skills. And the people skills, like that just goes directly with consulting. I feel like that's one of the best skills that during college, like I grew a lot in is definitely like I did a study abroad my freshman year of college, and that just sort of threw me directly into like having to meet new people, having to learn new social environments like constantly. And that's something that like if you build those people skills in college, that will always help you no matter if you work in consulting or you work in just like an industry job or just like any corporate environment. Like having people skills are definitely like the number one. And like those people skills are definitely like communication as well. Like if you can communicate and ask questions in the proper way, um you're going to be a lot more successful and like you're going to exceed like and excel a lot faster than maybe somebody that don't necessarily have the social skills or like like the problem solving skills and like generally knowing how to ask questions. The second part, like I was saying, is definitely technical skills. So when I was in school, I did MIS with a concentration in cybersecurity. So definitely got to take some technical classes in the MIS major, and some of them directly related to cybersecurity. But I also almost did a computer science minor, but I ended up not doing that. But instead, I just took a lot of computer science like classes that I wanted to take myself. And so I took like Python, C, and I learned Java. And so those are like I took the business classes under the MIS major. That helped me a lot with like the problem solving and the social start of it. But the technical classes of like just knowing the fundamentals of programming and the fundamentals of like how computers work definitely help today with what I do.
Okay. And do you feel like since you've started, and obviously you've grown in your career, has that learning continued? Obviously, there are probably like the different skills you need, the
Yeah.
programming knowledge you need to have.
Yeah, for sure. So like I took I mean, I took Python in college, but like when you're actually thrown into it in a work environment and you actually start working with like real data, like SQL classes as well. Like I took a SQL class my my junior year of college. But then like when you actually start working with a corporate environment, real data, like all that kind of stuff, it's a whole nother ball game. But it's also, if you have the fundamentals that you built in college, and then you're able to apply those fundamentals when you're thrown into like, here's the real stuff, that's what like definitely helps a lot.
Helpful to have that baseline, it sounds like.
Exactly. Yeah.
So in thinking about your job search when you were a senior, I know we worked a little bit together, but what would you say are like when you, and now knowing your knowledge of the field, what would be like the good entry level positions for someone with like your background to be looking for, and maybe using your own experience to kind of reflect on that?
Yeah. So definitely consulting is a path like anybody can go down. Like whether that's at the big four or like any other consulting firms out there. Um, I know some people that have like worked at other consulting firms, and they've had like really good positive experiences. Generally, if you are cybersecurity focused, when you're applying to a consulting firm, I would say the big four would definitely have something that's very cybersecurity focused. Like, here's our cybersecurity consulting practice, and we are recruiting into this practice. Like, that's a thing definitely at my company right now. Um, but like consulting isn't like always the route to go. Like if you want to go into like there's other ways to like build the skills and like get into that entry level, and there would be like just general corporate companies of like the first insurance company that was one of my clients. Like they have an entire cybersecurity department that then they would hire like people um, into their department every day. Something that I think like I learned like applying to jobs is that like there's more than you would generally think. And there may be more companies than you can actually think of. Um, like just because a company is not like something that you see every day on an everyday item that you have personally, it may not like that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad company to work for in an entry level position. And it's also doesn't necessarily mean that like there may not be a position at that company. Like I had never heard of the insurance company that was my first client before I worked on them. But would I potentially like work there as like an entry level? Yeah, for sure. Because like they just have the programs, there's a lot available. So I would say there's like definitely if you're looking, it's there's probably a lot more out there that you don't necessarily see. And so it might be better to like broaden the scope, um, or like generally use keyword searches that like maybe broaden that scope for you when you're looking for jobs. Because that was probably one of the things that I didn't necessarily know when I was applying for jobs.
Thanks. Yeah, that's some definitely some good insight there. Um, I guess thinking about this is a question that sometimes comes up. Students may be thinking about advanced education at some point. Would you say, like, knowing yourself, knowing the people you work with, is advanced education necessary to progress in the fields? I guess in your experience, what are you kind of seeing with that, with yourself or with people that you work with?
Yeah. So yes and no. I would say depends what you are specifically doing in the industry. Um, if you're working on like cutting edge technology and cybersecurity and you want to do research, then like, yeah, the secondary education may lead you down the path to like, that's probably the path you want to follow. Um, in my specific field, I would say it's also a yes and a no. Um, at EY specifically, I've seen people become partner with an undergrad degree. It's actually like one of the, it's actually pretty interesting. Like one of the CISOs, who's like the chief information security officer that um, I got to know a little bit working through this like industry. He graduated from his undergrad with a history degree, no advanced education, and is now like the chief security officer at like one of the biggest insurance agencies in the entire country. So like I would say it can definitely help, but it's not 100% necessary.
Well,
So
thanks. Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah, because that's a question that often comes up.
yeah.
Um, and then I kind of want to switch to, it's almost kind of what we're doing right now. But how important has networking been either in starting your career or growing your career? And how would, if so, how would you recommend students think about that too?
So like definitely the biggest piece of it all, I think, is like networking. Um, whether it was me going on, I don't know if anyone on this call is like a part of what is like the stock market club or like the accounting and finance association. I was part of those just because like I was originally an accounting major when I joined college, or like when I was in college. Um, but Dr. Gaber does like a trip to Boston and New York City every like fall and spring semester that does like a ton of networking events, like whether it's that or whether it's just LinkedIn. I don't know. Like I think networking is like it's like one of the fundamental things to like getting a job out of college and like succeeding and getting out there to like have people know your name, but also get the opportunities to like do what you want.
And when thinking back to your experience, could you share an example of like how that helped you, how networking helped you?
Yeah. So what, um, some of the, like some of the people that I've met, like I said, like I was able to a couple of people that I've met like connected me, like I was saying, with that CISO that I like mentioned before, and I was able to like go shadow him for a day and like learn like what his job is like. Um, and then there have been other instances where certain people have just taken my resume and like passed it along to somebody else that worked at a firm, like worked at a company. Definitely the position that I'm in right now is 100% due to networking and just generally just having a conversation with people or like asking to say, hey, can I talk with you on the phone for 20 minutes? And it goes a long way. Like even sometimes when you would think that, oh, I need to have an interview just to like, or I need to send my resume just to like get past this certain barrier, like the barrier could also be like jumped over maybe by having a 20-minute conversation with somebody. Like, and it's not a bad thing to ask certain people, like whoever, just for 20 minutes of their time to just have a conversation about just anything, like what they do on a daily basis, or just getting to know them to begin with. And you never know what kind of doors that'll open.
Well, that's helpful, and I think it's important to hear, but also helpful. I mean, that's something we here recommend a lot, and for the same reasons. You just never know. I mean, sometimes you might hear no, and
Yeah.
I try to coach students on that too. It's not everyone's not going to say yes,
Oh,
but
of
for
course.
for
Yeah.
those people who do, like, you know, you're kind of a case in point in that too. It can open doors that maybe would have been open, or maybe would have been harder to open if you didn't do some outreach. So that's great to hear. So now I only have a couple questions left, and now I'm kind of focusing back to your college experience. So, like, you know, the students who are on with us, they're in their, you know, college experience right now. You kind of shared some of the experiences you've had, but what do you think? What types of experiences should students look for now to build a foundation for success later? Maybe thinking back to your own experiences that you think were really helpful.
Yeah. So a couple of things stand out immediately, and maybe one of them is not necessarily like doable right now, but which is study abroad. Like, I'm sort of biased on this, but I think study abroad for any student to get to know like a different culture, or just be thrown into a situation where you don't know anybody and you have to show up every day. Like, some people do it when they go to college. Like, I didn't necessarily do. I knew people at the college I went to, but when I went to my study abroad, I showed up in Spain, didn't know a single person, and had to make friends with everybody. And some of my best friends now are from that study abroad. But that's one, which hopefully, due to COVID, like that would be an opportunity for people again sometime soon. Number two is just like clubs in general. Like I mentioned, like stock market club, accounting and finance association, like just being like, you don't need to be a part of every single club to have it on your resume, but like if you're generally interested in something that like interests you, and you want to show up to every meeting every week because it's good to hear about, or you want to get more involved, you want to become a part of the like the leadership, whether you want to become the president or vice president of a club, like that's always like great to have, and like that puts you in those social opportunities to network with people as well. um and then like just generally getting to know people in classes as well, like that's the third one that like maybe people overlook every once in a while, is like you show up to class every day and then like you leave and you just listen to the professor talk, or like you do whatever you need to do just in that class. But like one thing you might want to do is like, okay, I'm in these classes for a specific reason. Like, this is for my major. There might be other people in this class that's like super interested in some common themes that I'm also interested in. Like, maybe I can get to know them a little better. And so I definitely have a lot of friends from school, from just random classes. Like, I didn't know them first day of college, but I met them through my classes. So
Nice. Well,
yeah,
thanks for sharing that. So those are the questions that I have.
cool.
But now we have probably like 10 minutes or so left, and I just wanted to see if any of the students had questions. What I can do is, you know, if you're more comfortable just chatting in your questions, I have the chat open. Um, you know, if you want to actually ask your question, just let me know in the chat and I'll unmute you, and you can turn on your video and you can ask Rob the question so he can see you. But you know, I guess we'll at this point just entertain any questions you have. And I would encourage you to ask a couple, just because we have a great resource for us here. Um, so yeah, just let me know if you have any questions. Okay, take a minute.
Aiden, you better ask a question.
So let's see. Charles, did you have a question?
Yeah, I do. Wait, hold on. Wait. Yep, yep, yep.
There you go.
All right. My question is, for somebody who's not really sure of, because I recently got into the IT, kind of like the computer tech world, and I'm not too sure uh what part of that world I want to be a part of. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So and I'm a senior, and so it's kind of like I kind of need to figure it out a little bit. And so like how would you say like I might go about that?
Yeah.
Or
So what is your major specifically?
my major is IT.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, I would say there's a couple ways you can do it, but like there's a couple of painful ways and there's a couple of easy ways. Um, I
Okay, I'm
always,
all for it.
I always like to do the easy ways. So like what I would
Hmm.
recommend to you is like think of things that interest you, whether it's just like technology in general, and then spend the extra time, whether it's 30 minutes a day or whatever, like researching them, looking them up, reading news about it. And then maybe out of those things that you're really interested in, you pick one or two that you directly want to get real like experience in. And like the cool part of the tech world these days is like you literally have the internet like at like you can look up anything at any time. You can learn anything at any time. So you may find that something doesn't directly interest you and then you just move on. You find something else. But there's always cool stuff to find out on the internet, and once you do find that you like really want to deep dive in a specific area, especially in tech, like whether it's writing the code to then like actually work on something like that, or whether you want to just watch YouTube videos about it all day and just like get to know it better. Like just gaining the knowledge to begin with, I think is like a step forward that you can then use like later in life, like or when you're doing an interview for a job, you can say, well, I worked on this project and I like programmed this one specific thing that I was really interested in on, and I spent the extra time to one, learn a programming language, and to work on super cool problems that like I want to solve personally. And that's maybe the best way to like sort of approach it. I think start at like the top level and then maybe work your way down and get more in depth into like specific things. I don't know any other way other than to like just get on the internet, start reading, start watching YouTube videos. Like there's cool stuff out there that you
Yeah.
can
I
learn.
mean, I've been doing that. Um, I think I'm leaning towards cybersecurity, but I'm not too
Yeah.
sure. And so I just wanted to know what you think.
Yeah. I mean, I like IT is a big world. So
Yeah, I realize.
you can, I mean, just spend the time every day, research something new, learn something new, and eventually you'll find something that you really really like and you are passionate about and you want to spend more time on. That's how I
Mm.
would approach it.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for your question, Charles. Um, Once we got another question came in from Aiden. And he asked, "Do you find yourself drowning in work as a consultant, or is it reasonable along with good time management?"
That's a good question. Currently I would say I do drown at uh, sometimes, but I would sort of reverse that back to say I really, really enjoy what I'm doing. And I try to approach everything I do as a learning experience. So whether like it's um like it's like a menial task or like I just need to do it. Like if you look at something as like this will help me learn and grow, um, it can always help. But I also, like I said, enjoy what I'm doing every day. So sometimes it's a lot of work and there's a lot of time put into the job, but it's not like I absolutely hate doing it. So I hope that is a good answer. I don't know if it is.
Oh, definitely, that makes sense. So I guess this is kind of last call. Any other questions that people have?
Yes, I have. Hi.
I
I do have a question. I'm wondering, like, what kind of personality or characters that you think you have, or your colleagues have, that the EVI likes you guys and offer you the job.
Yeah. So just like general personality traits of everyone that I work with, like there's not one specific trait other than hardworking, I would say, that like fits all of my coworkers. But like there's just a mixed bag of like everything. Like you have introverted people, you have extroverted people, you have people that like don't have any tech skills at all, you have people that are super technical. um with consulting in specifically, like we have a giant firm. There's about 1,500 people in the cybersecurity practice within EY, and basically our team can make up any of those 1,500 people. If you fit the skill set or you fit like the slot that we need for somebody on that team, like we don't necessarily look at personality traits. It's like more of like, can you do the job, or can you do the tasks that someone's asking you to do, or can you like fulfill the requests that the client has. So you don't, and like it goes both ways. So like you have super extroverted people, and those are maybe generally the people that are like client facing, the ones that like speak a lot or present a lot in client meetings. But then maybe you have more introverted people that are super technical, and then like they can go off and like spend 5 hours and come back with a solution to a problem that's like the most insane thing you've ever seen. So like I would say it's both. So there's not like one trait that everybody needs to have in order to fulfill the job, if that makes sense.
Yeah, then I think I'm doing computer science right now, but I don't think I'm the kind of really talented technical person that can have a result in 5 hours.
No, but of course not everyone needs to be like that. I'm just saying like there are people like that where
Mm-hmm.
and like
It's
yeah, and sometimes computer science people are introverted people. They're not the people that are going to stand in front of the room of 300 people and make a presentation. Sometimes they are. Like it we have a team, or my team specifically at Home Depot, there's like 50 people on the team. Like we have an entire spectrum of people on our team. There's not just super extroverted people all the way across the board. So I hope that
maybe maybe just fit yourself the best part and to show it. Probably then
yeah,
you got
exactly. I like if you be yourself and you're not like this, hopefully nobody does, but like if you're not like lying about anything, or you're like just generally yourself, I think that's like the best approach. And like obviously like there's certain things that you discuss within your team that you then don't discuss in front of the client, but like that's a different world. But
Okay.
I don't know, that's how I would say it. There's not just one like personality trait that everyone has. It's everyone is who they are.
Mm-hmm. Good to know. Thanks.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I have a small question. Because I heard as a consultant, do you fly all the time, like around the world?
Yeah. So before COVID, I flew every week. But so like I lived in New York City, and then I would fly to Atlanta because Home Depot's corporate offices are in Atlanta. So
Okay.
every Sunday night or Monday morning, I would be on a plane from New York City to Atlanta. Every Thursday night, I would be on a plane from Atlanta back to New York City. So I would live in Atlanta basically during the week and then in New York City on the weekends. One of my roommates, he worked at KPMG, and he was like, he doesn't work in security, but he does like healthcare compliance, and he would travel 3 weeks at a time to Dubai, Singapore, Japan, just like all over the world. So, but then I also like now I'm sitting at home and I haven't traveled in about a year. So like, I mean, that's the COVID sort of issue going on, but some people also decide not to travel. So like some people absolutely love it, and like I loved it for sure, but there was people that we worked with that they have a family and kids, and like they would travel once a week or like once a month because they don't want to like the cool part about my company is like they're all about giving the opportunity for work-life balance. So yes, you might work a lot, but like also if you don't want to travel, you don't have to travel. And if you can still produce and execute on what you need to do, but you just do it from home, like there's no issue with that. And these days, basically every company nowadays, like you can work from home. There's not a lot of jobs out there unless they're like extremely needed in a corporate world that I would say you need to go into the office. Like even right now, Home Depot has about 2% of their corporate workforce in the office every day. And that's because they are data center engineers that like, if the data center goes down, like we're all doomed. So that's what
Got it. Thank
yeah.
you.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Rob, for your time today.
No
we
problem.
definitely appreciate it. Any parting words you would share with folks to kind of think about?
Yeah, sure. It's always a hard one to think of, but
No pressure.
yeah, right. No, I mean in general, like I said, like focus on networking, focus on surrounding yourself with people that are a positive influence and that you think you can learn from every day. And like work hard, and if you don't know the answer, like Google's always there for you. I think that's probably the best advice I got. Don't give up. Yeah.
Well, again, thank you for your time this evening. I know speaking for everyone, we really appreciate it. I learned a lot. I'm sure the students did as well. So yeah, just thank